Hello, and welcome to Writing Women, the show where I talk about the women who exist in fiction and the people who created them. I try really hard to not just be negative on this channel, especially going back and looking at stuff that's been out for a long time. Criticism is so subjective, and some of the comments I've gotten recently are proof of how different people interpret things differently, and that is great. That being said, I turned on my crappy camera to record today so that I could show you all what my copy of this book looks like. I don't have sticker tabs, so I dog-eared every time something made me say, what the fuck. I try to stay away from ultimate value judgments like this is uniformly bad or this is uniformly good, but this book is probably top 3 of the worst young adult books I've ever read, marked by PC Cast. It is the first book in the House of Night series. I picked up this series because I heard it was being adapted into a TV show and was interested in seeing the source material. This is probably the only time I will ever say that I dearly hope they change a lot in the TV series, because if this was adapted directly, yeesh. I'm used to having to dig deep and really think about things in a book before coming up with criticism for things it does, but this, I had to put the book down repeatedly because I would come across something so disgusting I couldn't keep looking at it. This book should have taken me a few hours to read, and instead it took me almost 3 days. I'll get more into why later, but first I want to talk about the author. These books were written by Phyllis Cast, and the co-writer was her daughter Kristen. According to the acknowledgments, her daughter helped her sound more authentic, though I would like to ask where the authenticity is here. Marked was written in the teen vampire fiction boom of the post-Twilight years, and I'm honestly shocked they got as popular as they did. I'll get more into why later, but first, a very brief recap. Zoe Montgomery lives in an alternative universe version of Oklahoma, where vampires exist and have been public about it for a very long time. Most famous actors and singers are vampires. The House of Night is a vampire finishing school that teen humans who are marked by vampire trackers go to basically learn how to be a vampire and prepare their body for the change, which can be rejected and kill the fledgling for seemingly random reasons. Or does it? Once she is marked, her hyper-religious family rejects her. Her stepfather is an elder of the people of faith, which are the Christian analogs of this world. Her grandmother, who is more spiritual and connected with their family's Native American Cherokee roots, is more accepting and ensures that Zoe reaches the House of Night safely. Zoe has a vision of the goddess Nyx, who is revered as the mother of vampires, basically telling her that she is super special and that she is chosen. The crescent mark on Zoe's forehead, indicating her fledgling status, fills in after this vision, putting her change timeline much further ahead of the other fledglings in her year. Zoe chooses a new last name for herself, taking the name Redbird in honor of her grandmother and her Cherokee heritage. The High Priestess of Nyx, Neverett, takes Zoe on in a mentor relationship, which she almost never does, and it makes some of the students jealous. She meets her roommate, a wannabe country singer named Stevie Ray, in her group of friends, complete with the token black character and token gay character. They all become fast friends, and Zoe is invited to the Daughters of Night to join them for a ritual. They are an elite student sorority-type group that generally hates humans and is led by Aphrodite, a fledgling who misuses her goddess-given gift of prophecy to basically let humans die in tragedies that she has foreseen and could have prevented because she hates humans. Aphrodite's ex-boyfriend, Eric Knight, starts to fall for Zoe, and Zoe's advanced fledgling powers cause her to accidentally imprint on her human ex-boyfriend, Heath, who sneaks to the school to find her. A cat chooses Zoe as a companion, and Zoe dubs her Nala because everything in this book is some sort of pop culture reference. Zoe gets visions and gut-feeling intuitions from the goddess, and is the first fledgling known to have an affinity with all 5 elements. So Zoe knows that she is supposed to replace Aphrodite as the leader of the Daughters of Night, which would mean that she is being groomed to become the next High Priestess. After a failed Samhain ritual, Zoe and her friends are able to banish violent spirits that Aphrodite summoned due to her ignorance and selfishness. Zoe publicly declares that she is taking Aphrodite's place, and the other girl is enraged, but Neverett happens to have been watching everything and, as High Priestess, makes the change official. Aphrodite runs off after telling Zoe that she doesn't understand what is really going on. Zoe remembers how she has seen students who are supposed to be dead wandering around the school and wonders what Aphrodite means by that, and what Neverett might not be telling her. The end. If that summary was all that happened in this book, it would be a really neat little story. The world is undeniably rich with opportunities, and the few times that Cass stops trying to act like a teenager and do some world building, there is some really fun stuff in there. The entirety of chapter 15, I think, is the full moon ritual, and almost the entire chapter is really engrossing and interesting. Right up until the end, where we get some shoehorned in dialogue that sounds jarringly out of place. That's the main problem with this book. The author brags about sounding like an authentic teenager. The thing is, PC Cast was an English teacher, and most of the mean and judgmental stuff in this book sounds a lot like an angry boomer who looks around her classroom every day and hates everything about the younger generation. There were lines about how slutty girls dress now and how that made them less worthwhile as people, a lot about how ugly fat people are, but somehow also skinny girls are bad and all have eating disorders. Along with a dated reference to Paris Hilton for some reason. Smoking marijuana means you are a loser burnout, and a lot of cavalier use of the R word to describe people acting ignorantly. I can practically hear her whispering, "This younger generation are a bunch of degenerates," as she writes about how respectable women don't give blowjobs or show affection in public, as she repeatedly calls girls nasty, liberal use of the word hoe, and slutty for literally just existing. It's got that distinct flavor of boomer hypocrisy where the main character complains about how mean everybody is, while in the same breath insulting everyone around her. Or the old white lady racism and homophobic things like describing any black character constantly with words like mocha-colored, exotic, and, I kid you not, African princess, while also talking about how their good straight hair must be a weave if they're a bad character. Or if they wear their natural curls, talking about, and I'm sorry for repeating this, how it probably doesn't have the nerve to nap up on her like other black people's hair would. The word nappy is used to describe black women's hair at least twice and maybe a third time. It's kind of foggy because I was so exhausted at that point, I don't really remember. I stopped counting after 2. The character of Shawnee, and I hesitate to call her a character, exists to be the sassy black friend in the main group, and she isn't even allowed that most of the time because she's constantly just finishing sentences for her twin, Erin. Or that I don't care if they're gay so long as they stay away from me and my family attitude of having the token gay character, and when introducing him, describing him as practically a girl. But don't worry, dear listeners, Cast would never write a gay character who wasn't the right kind of gay. He's not super girly like all those other gay guys at the school. That's why he hangs out with this group of friends and not with them. She even tokenizes her own main character. Zoe is supposed to be a quarter Cherokee and constantly looks at herself in mirrors and thinks about how exotic she looks. She refers to her ancestral language as mysterious and exotic, and it just reeks of racist depictions of Native Americans. They Googled some Cherokee words and used them over and over again, and even, as a blog post that I will link in the description points out, seem to have copied word for word a description of a purification ritual from a New Age website. Another post from the sadly now defunct Fangs for the Fantasy blog goes more into the racism of the entire series, and it is a really good read. I will link that too if anybody is interested. It goes into a lot more detail than I feel capable of, but it does contain major spoilers for the whole series, so if you plan to read them, don't follow the link. I'll give a pass for the main character being the super special chosen one because that's a common enough base for a story. I'm just not sure why people actually like her. She is so mean and hateful all of the time, probably because PC Cast is mean and hateful. Her friends only seem to like her because, well, she's the main character, and they are intended to be her friend group, and that's it. I have no idea why someone like Eric would like her either. And even he doesn't have much of a personality except he's, as all of the girls in the book repeat constantly, so hot. His only reason for being romantically interested in her seems to be that she's pretty and she's the main character. Oh, and for a way to show how innocent and pure Zoe is by contrasting her with Eric's ex-girlfriend, the slutty whore blowjob-giving Aphrodite, you see, Zoe is the right kind of teenage girl, the kind who thinks and acts like a racist, homophobic, hateful, 50-year-old Southern Karen. Which is perfect, because she's just the mouthpiece for one. This is the type of thing that I hate in writing. These characters don't exist to have their own lives and to exist in the story and create this wonderful world around them, right? They only exist to be mouthpieces for the author's own views, and that's just so sad. That being said, I do have something that I do want to compliment in the, I hesitate to say, romance. Putting aside how gross the whole people who drink or smoke marijuana are all rapist losers thing for a second, when Zoe's human ex-boyfriend Heath comes to the school, he tries to force physical affection on Zoe, and it is clearly shown to be bad. Then later, when Eric leans in to kiss Zoe, it is made specific mention of that he leans in and gives her plenty of time to pull away before closing for the actual kiss. Now, him asking to kiss her would be nice, but this was like 2007, so him even pausing to make sure she wasn't pulling away was progress. Now, I hate to go back to this again, but I am still laughing days later over how Cass brags about being authentic sounding in this book. I have never heard teenagers talk like they do here. I'm not as in touch now because I haven't been a teenager in a long time, but even when I was one and this book was released, people didn't talk like this. It's written like the way boomers on Facebook pretend teenagers talk to make fun of them. Now, I have a lot more that I could say, but I will save it because, surprise, I have the next 2 books in this series because I got a deal on them at a resale shop, and I want to give the next couple books a chance. I'm going to read up to book 3 in the series because that's the books that I have, and see if any of this changes, or to torture myself. I'm not sure which at this point. Hopefully, I don't have to put in nearly as many markers for racist, homophobic, fat-shaming, slut-shaming, or any other awful thing you can think of in the next book. Thank you for bearing with me on this journey through the first book in the House of Night series. If you like this video, please click that like button. It helps me out a lot. If you want to see how drained I get with the next couple books in the series, then go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to support me on Patreon to fund my trips to the secondhand bookstore, then go to patreon.com/writingwomen, where you can subscribe for as little as $2 a month to help me decide what direction to go with the channel. Thank you to my current patrons, Mary Doc Brandybuck, Ms. Psycho, Amy Chu, aka The Doctor, and Bruce.